After the release, Director Wray, of the IG report on the mishandling of the Larry Nassar investigation, the FBI publicly promised to, quote, take all necessary steps to ensure that the failures of the employees outlined in the report do not happen again. Our offices have discussed at great length what steps the FBI has taken to ensure that these failures are never repeated. One of the improvements, as I understand it, includes making sure in cases of suspected child sexual abuse, the FBI uses child and adolescent forensic interviewers. These individuals are specially trained to conduct interviews of minors who may have experienced sexual abuse. Please outline for us other improvements the FBI has made in how it handles investigations in child sexual abuse cases. I'm very concerned with this, particularly with regard to how the FBI engages with survivors of child sexual abuse and what more needs to be done.
Well, thank you, Senator, for the question. Let me just say at the outset, as this committee heard me say when I appeared before you on the Nassar report, words escape me to describe to you how upset I was when I learned what our folks had failed to do back in 2015. And we've taken a number of steps. You mentioned one of them, the increased use of CAFIs, as we call them, child adolescent forensic interviewers. But a few of the others that I would mention is that we've made all sorts of changes to strengthen our policies and procedures that add double and triple checks even to make sure that all FBI employees are handling these reports with the urgency that's required and communicating with the right people, both state and local law enforcement and within the FBI. So that's one piece of it, and there's a bunch of subparts of that. Training. We've put in place a whole bunch of new training, mandatory training for everybody in the FBI, no matter what their responsibilities are. I've taken the training myself to make sure that we learn the lessons from that horrific chapter. But then we've added on top of that very tailored, specific training, again, learning the lessons from the Nassar IG report that go to the people who handle these types of cases. So those are a few of the things we've done. We have tried to message it over and over again. I will tell you that we have adopted every single one of Inspector General Horowitz's recommendations, implemented them all, and have gone above and beyond.
Thank you. I am concerned about the rise in gun purchases, especially since the FBI is required to abandon any background check that is not completed in 88 days. This is, as I see it, a loophole that's dangerous and would be addressed by a bill I've introduced called the NICS Data Integrity Act. What has the FBI done to ensure the background check system remains effective during this spike in sales of guns? And do you need additional resources or authorities to make sure background checks are completed effectively and efficiently?
Well, thank you, Senator, for the question. It's certainly, you are absolutely right that we've had a significant increase in volume of NICS checks that we've, I think in 2020, I think it was, we had a record year of number. And of course, with some of the recent legislation that's been passed, I expect we'll have even more. We have surged resources to try to keep up with the volume and the demand, but we will need more. Congress has already been helpful in giving us some additional resources, but my expectation is that we will continue to need more resources, not just personnel resources, but systems, IT resources, because the whole essence of the NICS system is taxing in terms of system upgrades and so forth, and the interconnectivity and the accessibility for our state and local partners and so forth. So, so we will need more resources. I'm not in a position to comment on specific pending legislation, of course, but I'm confident in telling you that we will continue to need resources for personnel and IT upgrades.
I wonder, since over the 300,000 potential firearm sales were blocked in 2020, I congratulate you for this. Can you give us some reference to the kinds of things that were blocked?
Well, the transactions that are blocked are transactions where somebody who's a prohibited person is trying to purchase a weapon. Obviously, the biggest chunk of those are people who are convicted felons. And you might be surprised, but it's sometimes remarkable how many convicted felons still walk into a gun store and try to buy a gun. Of course, there are, under Section 922, a number of other prohibitors as well, domestic violence, mental illness. Again, I'm using layman terms. The language is more specific in the statute. But the full range of prohibitors are involved in the denials that we have made.
Thank you. I want to just point out that since I'm from the West, since the beginning of the pandemic, the Asian American and Pacific Islander community has seen a deeply disturbing increase in hate crime incidents. Last year in my hometown of San Francisco, city officials reported a 567% rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. San Francisco police received reports of 8 incidents of hate crimes against this community in 2019 and 9 reports in 2020. In 21, there were 60. So it's up. We believe that this is not unique to California, and I am concerned with it. How is the FBI working with state and local officials to help combat the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans and Pacific Islander communities?
So we elevated civil rights, which hate crimes is the biggest chunk of our civil rights program, to a national threat priority in the last fiscal year, and will be again this fiscal year. I think in calendar year 21, we had the highest number of hate crime initiations that we've had in maybe 5 years or so. We are also, so there's a lot of investigative work going on. In addition, though, we're doing a lot of outreach to the community. I think in 21, we had something like 140 different training or liaison events with the AAPI community around the country. And we've had listening sessions on the national level. We're also trying to provide forensic support, even in cases where there's not going to be a federal prosecution. It doesn't mean that we have nothing to do with it. We try to help in terms of forensic support and other expertise and experience. So we obviously are concerned about a lot of the same things that you are.
Thank you for that. It's much appreciated. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Feinstein. Our friend